Choose by Ryan Levesque. Ryan Levesque is the best-selling author of ASK, which is another book that talks mainly about marketing. He started 23 different businesses in different successful niches, and he's helped hundreds of business owners through his ASK coaching. I've actually read his book ASK, and it's very good, counterintuitive way to look at starting a new market, basically, and a counterintuitive way to marketing in general. And Choose is basically the prequel to ASK. So ASK is the way that you would identify your market, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But Choose is the way that you would choose the market that you would go into. And the basic premise of the book is that most businesses fail. The vast majority of those business owners blame either the market, the economy, the competition, or even themselves. And I'm sure if you're a business owner, you've probably been there before. Ryan puts forward in this book that even though sometimes those things might be contributing factors, that they can't be the only factor for the business's demise. But choosing the right or wrong market is the one thing that can make or break your business. And I think after reading this book, he makes some good points about this. So the first introduction starts with the boat analogy, and this is where we're going to kind of get the overarching idea behind this book. And basically it goes like this. Building a business is similar to launching a boat. The river that you launch the boat in has a lot more to do with how far you'll go and how fast you'll get there than the type of boat that you have, right? So if you have a canoe and you're going to paddle as hard as you possibly can, and you're in a river that you're trying to go up current in, you're not going to get anywhere very fast. But if you have a canoe and you're going to paddle very hard and very fast, and you're going down a stream that is fairly quick and you're going with the current, it obviously is going to be much easier. Now we have three different types of streams that Ryan puts forward. He basically says that a small stream is a stream that doesn't have enough customers to fill your business. A medium stream is the right amount of customers with not too much competition, and a large stream or a large river would be a large amount of customers, but also it means that there's a large amount of big players with big budgets, right? So if you're in a small niche market, you're not going to be able to find enough customers, or if you're in a really large market, you're likely competing with people that have very big advertising budgets or already have the vast majority of the market share. So obviously the best stream to choose is this medium stream. And the book is really all about how to find the medium stream when it comes to your business. And the first place that we're going to start is actually by brainstorming. Again, another interesting way to start the book is to model brainstorm. So Ryan basically puts forward that there really is one model to rule them all. And when he's talking about one model to rule them all, he's talking about one business model. So there's hundreds of thousands of potential business models out there, right? You could do anything from a product-based or a service-based. You could sell physical products. You could sell online products. You could sell software. You could do coaching if you're doing service-based. You could do done-for-you services. You could do a SaaS company, and etc. Right? That mind map could go out a million times, and you would never find the end of the potential business models that are out there. The easiest one, if you have only a little bit of capital, or you still want to grow to 6 or 7 figures, is education and expertise based. And this was interesting to me because the benefits of the education and expertise based is that it's faster to build, it's easier to get started, and there's still a lot of potential monetary upside, which, you know, if you're going into business, you want to have a lot of monetary upside. An education and expertise-based business seems like if you're a single person and you want to start your own business, or if you're in one of these types of businesses right here and you're not finding success for any number of reasons, it might be a good idea to switch to something that's more expertise-based. So we'll go into a little bit more about what education and expertise actually mean. But first we need to talk about the fact that most people think that they don't have enough knowledge to start a business like this, when the reality is that most people do have something that they know more than the average person about, and that's all that you need. And that really is what a business is in general, right? It's you taking a place where you have some level of expertise, even if you're not a PhD or you don't know everything about the particular industry, It's you taking some amount of your knowledge and packaging it in a way where it's consumable and can help other people. And that basically is what a business is. So even if you don't have any expertise, after using this model, you can learn everything that you need to know about a particular subject, right? So even if you don't have expertise at all and you can't find that one thing that you might know more than the average person about, you can become an expert and offer training within it. And teaching someone something is actually going to force you to level up your knowledge and push you ahead of whatever industry you're looking to break into. So this model is actually very, very interesting because what you can do is you can pick a niche using all of the different things that we're going to go over here, and you can actually teach yourself. And I think people will actually be more likely to follow you than they would be likely to follow a real expert in the field, because they can see how you started from where they were and moved into where you were, where they want to be. And with an expert, oftentimes what ends up happening is you feel like they're so far ahead of you that they don't even know where you're starting from. So this is not having an expertise in something becomes not necessarily a detriment to your business, but it actually becomes one of your strengths. So we'll go over the product grid here, right? So we have one model to rule them all. We're going to do an education and expertise based model. And there's multiple models within. There's 4 different models or 4 different products that you could focus on with your business. The first one is a product-focused education and expertise business. That would be digital courses, it would be ebooks, it would be physical books. There's a lot of other different things that you could do within this product-focused niche. But this one is essentially, you're going to create it once and people are going to come in and they're going to use it multiple times. And you're not going to have to go through and recreate it a bunch of times. The next one is client-focused, and this would be things like private consulting, it would be mastermind, it would be group coaching. So this would be something where you would sell something to someone and then you would actually come through and have to fulfill it each time that you sell it. The next one would be a membership focus, so it would be like a membership site or an online community. And this is a way that you could take your maybe a product or anything that you have as far as digital courses, ebooks, physical books, and you build a community around it. And then those people will all share with each other, and ideally they would pay a monthly recurring or a yearly recurring fee. The next one would be event focused. So this is things like workshops, boot camps, and live events. And this one is obviously going to be maybe a little bit higher priced than the rest of them, but also probably is going to be best focused around some of the products and maybe even a membership focused site. So you can see how a lot of these ones would work well together. But basically the way that you're going to do it is you're going to pick one of these to be your mainstay. And then the rest of them, if you do decide to branch off and do those are going to be the ones that you are coming to afterwards. And the way that you want to choose your product type, this is something that I had never actually seen before, and it was really revolutionized the way that I look at business. He talks about how you should pick the product to fit your personality. And he basically goes through different introverts, all the way from an extreme introvert to an extreme extrovert. So extreme introverts should choose a product that doesn't involve you interacting with a lot of people continually. So that would be probably our product focused map right here. You can see how these are almost going to line up. Introverts can choose between a model that has little to no interaction with people or a model with mild interaction with people, right? So that might be doing some one-on-one stuff, maybe even a little bit of masterminding or group coaching, but you're not doing stuff that is around a ton of people. Extroverts, you could choose a model that has a lot of people interacting with them, and a lot of people on a one-on-one basis as well, right? So with memberships, you're going to be putting out content for a lot of people. You're going to be in front of a lot of people, but you're also probably going to be talking to a lot of people one-on-one. And then with extreme extroverts, those should choose a model that's more group-based, and that's probably going to be more event-focused. You're going to be doing workshops, boot camps, live events, where you're going to be standing up on stage in front of a lot of people, and you're going to be talking to a ton of people, maybe even just for a short amount of time. So that's kind of how you would want to choose your business model. You would want to decide which one of these 4 you are, and then just correlate whatever you feel like you are with one of these products. And that to me was revolutionary, not because I didn't know about the products or not because I didn't understand the concept of extroverts and introverts, but the revolutionary part for me was that there's different products that would fit well for different personalities, and that might even be the most important part of the business, because he puts it first in his brainstorming model. Because when you go ahead and you choose a business model that fits your personality, it's going to feel a lot more, or it's going to feel effortless when you go and you create your product. And I thought that was really interesting. The next part is what he calls his one-page business model, is in, up, max. So basically, you got your max, you got your up, and you got your in. And it basically looks like a triangle in the book, but we'll do it as a mind map here. But the in is basically your, it would be a tripwire, basically. It's a base level product, which is usually the cheapest and most niche of all your products and services. This would be where your ebooks, your online courses, etc. all fit here based on what product you've chosen. This is going to get 100% of the people, of your customers. Obviously, this is going to be the first spot where they buy, and it's going to be a nominal amount. It's going to obviously depend on what product you choose, but it's going to be something a lot smaller of a commitment for those people. The next one is what he calls his up, and that's the next level up. And more often it involves some sort of personal touch, building on something that they've already purchased. This would be maybe coaching, consulting, or going a little bit more in depth with some of your courses, again, depending on what products you've chosen. You're going to get about 10% of people, or you're ideally going to get about 10% of people to sign up for your up product. And your up product should be about 10 times more expensive than your in product. So if your in product was $4.99, let's say, your up product would be $49.99, and that's kind of the idea there. And you'd get about 10% of the people that bought your in product to buy your up product. And then your max, this is going to be your 1% of the people are going to be purchasing this product or service, but they're the ones with the biggest problems to solve. It's usually coaching and consulting based on a longer term basis. Again, only 1% of the people are going to buy, and this is going to be 100 times what your in price is going to be. So we'll just go through this really quickly. Your in product could be an ebook. Your in up max could be some kind of an online course, maybe with some videos, and then your max would be your personal coaching or something like that. So by the end of this chapter, you should decide on what model suits your personality best, and you should maybe have a rough idea. I didn't put this in here, but you should have a rough idea of what you think your in, up, and max would be. By no means do you have to have this set in stone. I'm sure he would probably even say that this is going to be an iterative process. You're going to be looking into multiple different ins and probably multiple different ups and multiple different maxes at multiple different price levels. As Jay Abraham says, you'll always be testing. So the next part of the brainstorm is actually brainstorming your market. So the first thing that we start with 4 different types of entrepreneurs. And again, big breakthrough for me here. Really interesting thinking about a business coming from a perspective as you are the most important factor, because it really is the truth. And there's 4 different types. The first one is mission-based. The second one's passion-based, opportunity-based, and undecided. So mission-based people, they have a call to a purpose or a specific mission, something that they would die on a hill for. Heard that saying quite a lot. They have a strong moral complex, and they move away from something negative. So if you have a mission, you generally know that you have a mission. You know that you want to accomplish something. I think he gives the example in the book of someone trying to solve bullying because their son or daughter was getting bullied. The next one is passion-based, so it should be about something that you love, something that you have a deep interest in, something that you want to share, something that you can move people towards something positive in their life. Whereas this one is interesting. It moves people away from something negative. Again, another little breakthrough there for you. And it should obviously be something that you are excited about. And the good thing about a passion-based business is if you have a passion, you know what it is. And if you have that passion, odds are pretty good that other people are going to have a passion that is similar to yours. And the next one is opportunity-based people. These people are motivated by growth. They really love maybe growing and building a business. And then they like to find and follow new ideas. They see potential in the unsatisfied markets, and they're drawn to unsolved problems. And if you're opportunity-based, you likely probably know that you're opportunity-based Maybe you've started multiple different businesses in niches that you thought would be really, really successful, and you just know that you're opportunity based. Now, there's going to be quite a high majority of people probably that are going to be undecided. I would say that most people are probably going to be undecided about what their niche or what their business should be about. So you know that you want a business, you're not sure what the business will be, you're open to ideas, you're uncertain about a path, and you practice businesses are an option. So if you're in this specific category, I see a lot of people preying on people in these categories online. They're trying to tell you how you can start a business really easy, really cheap, and etc. They're coming from a more opportunity-based mindset and trying to put that mindset on you. But really, undecided people, maybe you should start and think about, okay, if I had a passion, what would it be? If I had a mission, what would it be? If I saw some opportunities, what would those opportunities be? And you could go ahead and you can practice. You can use all of these different things inside of this mind map, inside of this training here, and you can come up with a business and you can start it and you can try it out. And this is actually what I've done. I've had multiple businesses through my life, and a lot of them I felt, again, they were practice businesses until I found something that I really, really wanted to do. So this is where Start With Why would come in. If you ever read that book, it's a great place to start. If you're stuck on this step, it can give you some motivation. It can help you maybe find your why if you feel like you're missing it. And again, don't spend too much time. If you know, you know, and if you don't, just pick something when we go through this process and use it as a practice business is what I would say. And then the next thing, we're going to decide on your market. The end of this chapter, we're going to decide on your market, and it's going to be based on what you connect with the most. So by the end of this chapter, make sure that you have what market you're going to go through, or what market you're going to try and start a business in. So the next one is we're going to brainstorm business ideas. But again, he does it in a very interesting way, whereas instead of iterating business ideas, we're going to talk about keyword phrases. And I like this for a number of different reasons. One is because if you do keyword phrases, it doesn't stick you into the model. If you're coming up with a business idea, a lot of the times you're going to take business ideas from already established businesses. And while that's okay, this is a way that you can maybe create something that has a little bit more blue ocean for you, something that people aren't necessarily already doing. And the keyword phrases that you come up with here should be something that's going to describe your offer, what you do specifically, and what's at the core of what you offer. So again, you don't have to necessarily have your products or services already laid out, but you want to say, okay, if I'm going to help people learn how to care for their orchids, that would be one of my keywords, is orchid care. And then after you have those keywords, you want to put them into this sentence, which is going to help us with the next step. It's put the keywords into, I want to help people with whatever your keyword is. So I want to help people with orchids or orchid care or whatever that is. So this is going to help you on the next chapter, like I said. Here we're going to go through 2 steps. First, does that keyword fit your personality? And can you see yourself doing it in 5 years? Both super important things. 2 things that I wish I would have known when I first started my couple of businesses that I have. So, end of this chapter, you should have 3 keyword phrases built into your sentence structure above. Now again, they might all be around your passion or your mission, but the keywords might be slightly different if there's multiple different things that you're passionate about inside the same vicinity or inside the same area. You want to have 3 different keywords because when we go through the testing process, some of those keywords might not make it all the way through. So like I said, the next part here is going to be the testing process. And the next part is actually taking our keywords and turning them into bullseye keywords. So you're going to express the process or journey or transformation that people will experience as a result of your product. So the way to do this is to first take your top 3, I want to help these people statements, and take the action plus the product out of them. So example, I want to help people care for their orchids would turn into just orchid care, and that would be your bullseye keyword. And next you would want to break as many keywords off of that keyword as you possibly can. So think of different things that have to do with orchids, like growing orchids, caring for orchids, or orchid gardening. And a great way that he shows in the book that you could do this is if you just type in orchid care, you can scroll down on Google and it'll actually say related keywords or one of those, some sayings like that. And there's also some Chrome extensions that will show you what other people have searched for that have searched for orchid care. So after you type those keywords into Google and you see if the results that pop up are similar to what you had in mind. If they are, then you can move forward. And if they aren't, then you should ditch those keywords. So this is interesting, right? If you have an idea for your product or service in your mind, maybe you don't have it already built or anything like that, but what you want to do is you want to type it into Google, and if the keyword doesn't match, so let's say, for example, you type in orchid gardening, and there's a bunch of actual orchid products, or there's fertilizer or something like that, that's not what you're looking for. But if you type in orchid care and there's a bunch, maybe there's a couple of ebooks and there's maybe some YouTube videos and stuff like that, that is definitely what you're looking for. So you want to find products and services that are education and expertise based when you type it in the Google search bar, or else you won't be able to get the kind of traffic that you need. And also you should just change up the keyword a little bit so that people know what you are trying to accomplish. So again, you should have, end of the chapter, you should have a list of 3 keyword phrases or business ideas broken into specific bullseye keywords. So the next part we go through is actually the market size sweet spot. And this one is, again, really interesting. It's something that I've never thought about before, probably something that has never even been written about before. But this basically represents a market size that's not too big and not too small. So this is going back again to our boat analogy. We're trying to find our medium stream, not our large or small stream. So if you're too big, you'll have too many people with deep pockets, and if you're too small, you won't have access to the number of customers you'll need to be successful. And the way that we're going to test the waters here, so to speak, is we're going to go onto Google Trends. So you just type in Google Trends and you'll be able to pull it up. And you're going to take your bullseye keyword on Google Trends and you're going to type it in. And you're going to select worldwide and 5-year span. Both of these are important. If you're going to do a local business, I would suggest that you probably type in just your local business, but worldwide will be the best if you're going to sell expertise and information online. And then you want to make sure that the market is stable and not in a downfall or a spike. So the Google trend is basically kind of like a graph, and a market downfall would be the graph going downwards. And if you're in a downfall, it means that you have a lot of potential competitors, but you have less and less consumers. And a market spike, like when you maybe fidget spinners, right? Where everyone was probably searching for fidget spinners for a month and a half, and then no one was searching. So you got to be really careful that you're not in a market spike, because it likely means you're in a fad market and that you won't get a continual return. You might do good for a few months or maybe even a few years, but it won't be a long-term business for you, which is what we're looking to build, because there's a lot of work on the upfront to build a business. So some markets are cyclical throughout the year, and you'll see that when you look up the graphs, that sometimes it'll spike in January if you're in the weight loss niche or whatever, and then it'll spike again right before summertime, and then it'll keep going down. And that's a cyclical market throughout the year, and that's okay, but it has to stay within a healthy range of this plus compare that we're going to talk about later. But it also is helpful if you take notes of those cycles, because then you can make sure that it fits the lifestyle, right? So if your market spikes right before Christmas and you want to take vacation at that time, then it's not going to be the right market for you. Or if it spikes during the summertime and you want to take summers off, it's not going to be the right market for you. Again, fitting the business to you, again, a really interesting concept that's continuing to pop up in this book. So the next thing that we're going to do, we're still on Google Trends here. We're going to type in plus compare. So once you plus compare, Ryan's noted that all of his and his clients' successful businesses fall within a certain keyword frequency. And this is a complete breakthrough. There's probably an amount of times that people are typing into Google your specific keyword that's going to be the sweet spot. It's going to be the river that you want to get into. You're not going to have to paddle too hard, and you're not going to have too slow a river. So this is really interesting, right? Because we're taking Google Trends, which is basically telling us how many times people are typing in a word into Google, and we're kind of putting it on, instead of just how many times are people typing into Google, we're kind of putting it in how much interest is out there in the marketplace. Is there enough, or is there maybe too much? It's really interesting where we're using these metrics that Google is giving us and superimposing them onto actual human behavior, which a lot of people kind of disconnect metrics in human behavior, but this is exactly what this is. So you want to enter in these 4 keywords. So this is 4 of his businesses and clients' businesses. And if they're within this range, you're going to be more likely to be successful. So one of these businesses is top line, one of these businesses is bottom line, and the rest are in the middle. You want to try and make sure that your keyword phrases are going to be in the middle. And another thing that you need to think about is, now that you have your bullseye keyword, you might have to slightly change your bullseye keyword. So not all your bullseye keywords are going to fall into the range. Some of them might be way crazy too high, or some of them might be way crazy too low. But a combination or a slightly altered one might. So don't give up completely because your keyword isn't within the range. You want to try to find a way to build a business off that keyword that's within this range. So I'll give the example of someone who wanted to maybe create a Lego business, right? Lego is the biggest toy in the whole entire world. If you type in Lego, it's going to be way outside the range of orchid care, memory improvement, leadership skills, and beekeeping, right? But if you took a small subset of that Lego market, let's say you wanted to type in Lego conventions in your specific area, that might fit in the right spot. So you can see how by changing your business model, by changing the way that you're thinking about creating your business, therefore changing your keyword is going to change the amount of search frequency to allow you to find the right amount of mind share that would be ideal for starting your business. So by the end of this chapter, you should have 3 bullseye keywords that will pass the Google Trends test. And again, you might have to iterate a little bit. You might have to change the entire business model at worst, right? At worst, you'll have to change the entire business model because your keywords are getting searched too much. But you want to zero in, make sure that you get that amount of traffic. And next, we're going to go market competition sweet spot, right? So we talked about this before. We want to make sure that the size is good, but we also want to make sure that we have the right amount of competition. And again, it's kind of like the boat analogy in Meta again. You don't want to have too little competition because that notifies you that you're not having any competition, notifies you something might be wrong. Having too much competition means that you're going to have to spend too much to be able to even make any money at all. You want to find just the right amount. And this is interesting because we're not eliminating or not having any competition, but rather have the right amount of competitors, maybe the right amount of competitors that we can do something just slightly better than them. So the next thing is that too many competitors, again, is going to be impossible. Too little competitors, it's going to be telling that something's not right? He says that pioneers get shot and settlers get rich, and I think that's really apt way to put it. So how do you find the sweet spot? First, you want to make sure, are your competitors spending money on marketing? Because if you're a business, you can't spend on marketing for very long if you aren't profitable. Unless you're backed by someone with really deep pockets, and that's something that we essentially eliminated with the previous step. You're likely, if you're in the right market size, you're not going to find a lot of people who have really, really deep pockets who are backed by maybe one of the bigger companies in the world that have a ton of money to spend on marketing and can lose money hand over fist for a long time. So you type your keyword into Amazon. This is genius, everyone. Take notes here. So you look at how many sponsored posts there are, and you should be looking for information products, not physical products. So Google is the biggest search engine, so you can see how much mind share they have, and Amazon is the biggest marketplace, so you can see how many competitors you have. Super interesting. He made that connection. I don't know if anyone else has made that connection before. So he says that 3 to 7 sponsored posts is a green light, and again, this is from hundreds of people that he's coached. 1 to 2 or 8 to 9 is a yellow light, and 1 or 10 is a red light. If you're doing green light, that's good to go. If you're yellow light, proceed with caution. Red light, maybe try and iterate something a little bit more on some of these steps further back. And by the end of this chapter, you should make sure that your keyword phrase meets the competition sweet spot. If they don't, again, like I said, go back and reiterate some of the things that you talked about before. And again, I want to stop here for a second because it seems like this is a ton of work. But if you are a business owner, you know how much work it is to even just bring a product to market. Isn't it worth it to spend a day, 2 days, even up to a week or a month on this type of research before you go ahead and actually create the product to be way more sure that you're going to be successful? I think it is. So the next part, these are the 3 kind of things that you need to have pre. You got to check all these boxes off before you go into it. And then the next part is called the market must-haves. And these 5 things are going to be imperative if you're going to be successful in any market, not just even an online market. This could be extrapolated to offline markets and everything. So the first one is that you need an evergreen market. So it's got to be a market that has been relevant for decades, and that's why we expanded out to 5 years on Google Trends. You want to make sure that it's been very, very stable, and you don't want to see too many upswings. You don't want to see too many downswings in your trending, and it just make sure that you have a sustainable business. Again, if you're going to do all this work plus all the work of bringing your product to market, it's worth it to make sure that you have a business that's going to be able to be sustainable for a long, long time. So the way to look at this is just look up the Google Trend data to make sure that you have a stable market. And then the next part is you want to make sure that you have an enthusiast market. And this was the one that was interesting for me, but it's basically a market where buyers are enthusiastic about the topic, so much that they tend to be repeat buyers. So think about the people in your market. Are they enthusiastic about solving your problem? Right? So this one's really interesting because if you look at evergreen markets, there's evergreen markets like real estate. There's evergreen markets like, let's say, for example, there's evergreen markets like pest control. And people are always going to need pests to go away, but they're not enthusiastic. Once they get rid of that problem, they're not going to go back and buy it again or buy a more expensive product, basically, right? So a $10,000 problem. This one was really interesting to me. I've heard of you want to solve a $1,000 problem before, but $10,000 problem is really interesting. So it's not really talking about charging people $10,000 to solve a specific problem. It's more about if your product has a enough is enough point, right? Where people are kind of a breaking point where people will be willing to pay almost anything to have that problem for them solved. And that's going to make your marketing a lot easier. The next is that the market has future problems. So it has to have additional problems, either adjacent or right in line with the ones that you're currently focusing on solving. So it'll give you opportunities to maybe either expand your products, you could team up with other people with a host-beneficiary relationship, or you could, etc., any number of things just to maximize your client value. You want to make sure that you're not doing a ton of one-time sales. So the next part is players with money. This is, again, another interesting one. You want to make sure that you have people that are willing and able to pay to solve the problem that you solve, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a niche where there's a lot of wealthy people, but they have to be willing and able to pay what you need to earn to solve the problem that you are solving. So the way that you can test for this one is that you can look for max level products, right? Remember the max level product that we talked about before is about 100 times the size of your initial in product. And that way you can look at your competitors. Are they doing max level products? And if they are, then there's obviously enough players with money in your area. So the end of this chapter, does your product cover all of these markets? And if it doesn't, are you okay with that risk, right? If you don't have any one of these ones, I would say you can go back and iterate, or you can iterate on the way that you're bringing that product to that market. Maybe you can create one of these where it hasn't been seen necessarily before. But what I would say is you want to make sure that you try and get all these 5 market must-haves. He says that if you don't have them all, it's okay. You just want to know that you're proceeding with that risk. And you could go back to the previous steps again, like I said before, if you wanted to. So that's really it. We can go through that whole entire process again. If I expand all these out, we've gone through, we've done our model brainstorm. We got our business idea. We got our keyword phrases. We created our keyword phrases. We made sure that our market size was right by using Google Trends. And then after that, we made sure that there's not too many competitors in our marketplace by looking on Amazon. And then we covered up these 5 market must-haves to make sure that we're going to be able to actually make money in our market. And then the last part is just choose. And this is more about maybe the mindset that goes behind it, of building a business, and then what to do next. So this first chapter is choose your market. So business and entrepreneurship is risky. And as he stated before, the majority of businesses do end up failing. But now that you've done more research and you put yourself ahead of a lot of the other business owners, you should essentially feel safer than those other business owners, and you know what, you can really dedicate a lot of time to creating a great product and bringing that product to market, and knowing that you're not putting all this time into this product and it's going to be a waste. And I know that's something for me that it's very, very important to be realistically sure, or reasonably sure, I should say, that all of the work that I'm going to put in ahead of time is going to actually make me money on the back end, especially if I'm taking it from a business perspective. The next part that he talks about is that business is a lot about momentum, and you got to try not to let yourself get discouraged. And if you're a business owner, you know exactly what this is about. If you're going to be a business owner, I'm sure you're going to find out what it's about. And he talks about setting a goal is important, but only insofar as you can set it and then focus on the process to get there. And for me, that has been the secret to entrepreneurship. When you focus too much on the goal of where you want to be, you can't focus on where you are. And then your product suffers, and so does your life, because focusing on the task at hand and becoming a craftsman, like Cal Newport says in his book, Deep Work, is very, very important. So think about how many days you can string together that you really like. And I like the way that kind of rings true to me as well. With, I have a goal, but I really, my real goal is how many days can I string together that I actually like. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur, the freedom is one of the number one reasons people start. Obviously, there's many other reasons, but freedom is one of the many ways that we start, and often we end up getting handcuffed by that freedom. And it's really important to like your days. So the final step is to launch. So you're now in the best position that you could possibly be, like we talked about before, with a well-vetted and chosen niche. And now what you need to do is know what products or services your niche or market needs. And again, you can look at some of your competitors, and that might be a good way to go about it, do that market research there. But he talks about the ASK method. Obviously, this was his first book, and this one is kind of the prequel to it. So you knew that this was going to connect into his ASK book at some point in time. And he gives a basic overview of the ASK method, and I'll do another video on the ASK method and probably attach it down below. But if you start with asking your market, when it comes to, bam, your bullseye keyword, right, orchid care, like we talked about before, what is your single biggest challenge, frustration, or question that you've been struggling with? And what you could do is you could post that on Facebook. You could post that if you already have an established audience, that obviously would be ideal. But you could also post it on Facebook groups, Facebook ads, or you could rent a list of maybe people that might be interested in buying your product or service. And you want to look at the really long responses to this question. And this is interesting, that you get, and you can use those to decide what product or services are best for that niche. So you can see if people write a really long paragraph, those are probably going to be people that are most likely to buy from you. So you want to listen to those people and say, this is what I'm going to create for you, because that's what you asked for. And if people are asking for it multiple times within your survey, it's definitely going to be something that at least some people are interested in. And a little pro tip that I like to do is I like to save all those responses, because they're really great for copywriting after you've created your product, created your service, solved the problems that they've had or questions or frustrations. And you can use that as copywriting in your funnel, because you're using their words, you're using their own tribal language within their specific need or problem that you're solving for them. So that was Choose by Ryan Levesque. Thanks for being with me today. I'm really looking forward to creating some more book reviews for you guys. If you have any suggestions of books that I should read, leave them down below.